And we're live, guys. It is only 30 seconds past 6:50. So not bad. Last week was really rough. The fact that we got home a little late and we didn't start till like 7:10, right? We are on time. Um I was ready to go at 6:49 and then I just went live on YouTube at 6:50. But you know how I usually start a few seconds before 6:50 because it takes time to load? I forgot about that. So about 10 seconds late for YouTube to give me the signal that we're live. And then I had to go and even I haven't even pushed live on Facebook yet. And that covered the other 20 seconds. So anyway, but we are on time. That's all that matters. It was still 6:50 when I started talking. I always start with that boring fact. I know. That's what gets people not watching at the start of it. We are live, we are live, we are live. So, welcome to our marathon. This is our second week of the year. I wish it could be our third, but we could not get us going live on the ship, right? So, remember how I was wearing my hat last week, my Mexico hat? That was fun, right? Everyone enjoyed that. Well, what we got Storybrooke on, right? Welcome to Storybrooke. So, because tonight's all about Once Upon a Time, not about Mexico. So anyway, welcome to our live stream. We'll start momentarily. We're just waiting for it to be 7 o'clock. So I guess that's to recap everything that's been going on in case anyone wasn't here or they don't remember. Remember how we thought we were told last year in the last season that the story ends with the savior going dark. Obviously, that's not the end of the story because we got 5, 6, 7 here. So it didn't end. Season 4 might have ended with her turning evil, but season 5 did not. Right? Like the whole show did not end with Emma turning evil. But they wanted to scare us for a little bit. Unfortunately, the plan failed. They couldn't turn the savior dark. However, fate had other plans to turn her dark. So yes, though a team of villains could not turn the hero evil, a team of villains cannot make the protagonist antagonist. But sometimes things happen, like the Dark One's dying, so to save Rumple's life, they have to make someone else the Dark One. Now that was a twist. That was not the original plan. The original plan was for the Savior to make a bunch of sins and turn evil, the more sins she made. But Emma did not make that many, she didn't make that many sins, and even the ones that she did, like kill Cruella de Vil, it didn't really turn her evil, Obviously the plans of, failed, but, when one arc started coming to an end, another began, and she turned evil anyway. So what happened last week was that after Emma turned into the Dark One, she disappeared out of thin air, right? And all the heroes wanted to figure out where she went. They tried calling her with the dagger, but the rules of the dagger say you can only call her from every corner of the world, and she was not in this world. So we found out she was in Camelot. We didn't know that at first. It looked like Enchanted Forest, and but it didn't spoil, right? But we found out it was Camelot by the end of the first episode. Remember, we also watched a special last week, it was a Q&A special of the cast answering questions about season 5. So anyway, and describing it in 3 words and stuff. So anyway, remember, because of that, we only did 2 episodes following. And so the one episode, the only flashback we had was Emma going to the movie theater to see Sword in the Stone, and an usher comes up to her. And that usher is going to come back tonight. That usher came up to her and told her, "Don't do it." Like as she stole a candy bar and snuck into the movie theater without a ticket, the usher told her, "Don't do it." But he wasn't talking about the candy bar or sneaking into the theater without a ticket. He was talking about the sword. He said, "One day you'll pull Excalibur from the sword, but leave the sword alone." And so anyway, so we are warned that Emma was, no one saw the usher. He disappeared after they were done. So it was like an angel, an invisible angel came to Emma, and we know that Emma's not supposed to pull Excalibur from its stone because bad things will happen if she does. Nothing bad happened to Arthur when he pulled the sword. You know the legend, right? But something bad's going to happen to Emma, so she can't pull Excalibur from the stone. She has to be very careful. So that's something to remember tonight. and throughout the whole arc. Um, anyway, in the present, everyone, they used the Wicked Witch to, use the apprentice's one. The apprentice died, being of old age, and the last thing he was able to pass on was his magic wand to open portals. Unfortunately, only someone can who's been on the light and the dark can open it. And Regina's been good for too long, so they had to use the Wicked Witch to open a portal. She wouldn't open the portal without going to Oz first. So obviously she threatened to kill Robin Hood in order to go back to Oz. But luckily, the heroes didn't play stupid. They gained the upper hand, and Selena may have conjured a portal, but they changed the direction to not go to Oz, but to go to where Emma was, which was Camelot. They ended up using grannies as bait to kind of take them to through the tornado that would take them to the Camelot. Because the Wicked Witch's way of traveling through portals is through tornadoes. You know how the Oz works, right? They use the portal to get to Camelot. So everyone sucked into tornado. I mean, not portal. Sorry, tornado. They used the tornado to get to Camelot. They sucked into the tornado. In the meantime, Emma teams up with Merida from Brave, Pixar, right? Our first Pixar character. Not Woody, not Buzz, not Toy Story. We're talking about Brave, the only Disney princess in Pixar. Um, so anyway, they team up, and then Emma gives into her darkness and almost kills Merida. And she needs the wisp to find her brothers, and Emma needs it to find Merlin. So they have a fight about it. Luckily, before Emma ends up killing Merida, the heroes finally show up in their granny's tornado, and they stop Emma. And, they interrupt in the middle of the scene to stop Emma from giving in to her darkness. Luckily, Emma resists. She gives Merida her heart back. Merida goes her separate way. And then they finally, after hanging out at Granny's, they run into King Arthur, who leads them into Camelot. And then we jump 6 weeks later to only find out that they failed to destroy the darkness in Emma, and that she's full on evil now. She's pretty much Satan at this point. She walks into Granny's. They're back in Storybrooke, and she goes, "There's no savior in this town anymore. I'm the dark one." Boom, boom. End of episode. Then we watched episode 2. The flashback mentioned a ball in honor of the visit of the heroes coming to Camelot. Henry falls in love with Violet, and then they sing a nice song. Just from a window above, just like a story of love. Can you feel it? Right. Anyway, it's a good song. And then there's a Camelot guard who knows the evil queen when he was a child, and she was pretty evil, and she was the only one that survived from his village, and before he got the word out that she was the evil queen. And by the way, Regina was posing as the savior because Emma's the dark one. They don't want her to use dark magic to free Merlin from a tree. And so anyway, they find out Merlin's trapped in a tree, and it's prophesied that the savior would unlock the tree. Regina, who was the evil queen at the time, who's no longer the evil queen anymore, but she was the evil queen, right? Just everyone knows who Regina is. She didn't care what the prophecy said. She was going to find a way that she could free Merlin and convince everyone that she's the savior. And so anyway, even though it's a lie, she's trying to cover up for Emma so she doesn't lose her darkness, and Arthur doesn't know Emma's the dark one. And so anyway, they're just having a ball, and then the knight, who finds out who Regina really is, decides to try to kill her, tries to secretly kill her in a dance, and luckily, before she can be assassinated, Robin intervenes and gets stabbed instead. And then Emma has to use her dark magic to heal Robin, but since she didn't pay the price, it comes back to bite her in the present day. And her skin starts to turn scaly like Rumple's. And that kind of wraps up the flashback. In the present, we deal with the aftermath of all that, of where the Wraith comes to kill Robin's soul because they didn't pay the price. Regina sacrifices her own life to save Robin. Emma threatens about this thing coming. They find out that Regina tried to save Robin's life at one point and didn't pay the price. She thought Emma had to pay it, but obviously it's not Emma who should. Anyway, Regina finds out she has to sacrifice her life to pay the price of saving Robin Hood. When she goes to sacrifice her life and get dragged to the underworld, the this once upon times theory of afterlife, right? Underworld. Um, anyway, a bunch of heroes go in to sacrifice their lives with her, and it destroys the myth spirit. It destroys the, when it multiplies lives, when it goes to take Regina's life, someone else steps into her place, and someone steps into her place, and by the time it's taking like 5 lives, it destroys itself and no one dies. So anyway, it saves Robin's life, and Regina ends up being the savior Storybrooke needs. The formal evil queen, who's now the good queen, is now the savior of Storybrooke, while Emma's being the dark one. So while our protagonist is being the antagonist, our antagonist is being the protagonist. They kind of switched roles now, except Regina's been good since for seasons now. But you know what I mean. If you compare how it was in season 1 to how it is in season 5, they really switched roles now. Our protagonist is now the antagonist, and our antagonist. Anyway, Regina's being the savior everyone needs at the moment. Well, until Emma's no longer the dark one, right? And then there's a Rumple who's been in Emma's head this whole time, trying to tempt her to, not our Rumple, not the Rumple who's been bad in season 4, just a vision of, just a vision of the darkness who's taken the form of Rumpelstiltskin is tempting Emma to make bad choices, kind of like the devil on your shoulder, right? Anyway, right, Rumple gives a speech about how being the dark one has the thing, has its pros and cons. You lose the friendships you once gained. You ruin the family you once, tried to not break. You shatter every moment of love that refuses to hold you back. Anyway, it's sad, being evil. You lose family, you lose loved ones, and you end up with a hole in your heart, and you end up by yourself. But the light of the Savior, you know, you're not. So there's a little gospel principle in there. Sometimes it's good to follow the light. Then that way you're not alone. And even in the darkness, you're not alone. But it's I'm sure the Lord weeps over those who choose wicked. So over righteous. So it's better to be righteous. So anyway, that's my point. Anyway, it was a good speech. It's a good speech about how sad it is to be the dark one, because in return, all magic comes with a price. The price of being the dark one is you lose loved ones. You remember how Belle threw Rumple across the town line because he was evil? Anyway, anyway, you know, if you don't want to ruin the friendship and bonds you formed with your family, you should be good. Anyway, not evil. Of course, they'll love you no matter what, but still. Anyway, and the episode ends with finding out that Emma has the sword in the stone in her basement, and when she tries to pull it out, she can't. She doesn't turn into dust like some other guy we know, who tried to beat Arthur to the sword. Anyway, no, it's only for heroes, not villains. Anyway, luckily Emma is immortal, so it didn't turn her into dust, but she did get blasted back by a protection spell. And if she wants that sword, she's gonna have to pay the price. She's gonna have to find a hero to pull the sword from the stone. So there's your recap. It's 7:03. I've talked for 13 minutes. It's time to watch the show. But anyway, yes, if you have your timestamps ready, Disney Plus, Hulu, whatever, timestamp is, let me tell you, it's loading. I didn't push play on the episode. I should have. It's loading. Oh, and I didn't put these headphones in. How silly of me. It's loading. Give me a second. Okay, sorry you had to hear that. We're not starting the episode yet. Let me show you what it's at. It's at 43 minutes and 45 seconds if you're watching Disney Plus. If you're watching Hulu and DVD or something like that, push episode 3 on your disc, but don't push play yet. Make sure it's at 0 seconds. Rewind if you accidentally play the recap, what I just did. Rewind so we can all be in sync together. But anyway, we're going to start the show now. For one, start on time is great. For another, it's hard to start the show on time because then you're waiting 10 minutes. I like to start early to give time for people to jump on. But but then you find something to talk about in those 10 minutes and it goes overtime. I'm a person who just over talks too much and probably over explains on a recap of what we watched last week. So I am very sorry. But hopefully you're all caught up and ready to see what happens next. Emma needs a hero to pull a sword from the stone. That's what we're doing right now. But anyway, who's that hero going to be? Is it going to be Hook? Is it going to be Charming? Who's going to pull? Or even Arthur's in Storybrooke. You probably think but that's too cheesy for it to be Arthur. He's already pulled Excalibur from the stone. Who's the Storybrooke person who's going to pull it? Anyway, but yeah, Arthur is in Storybrooke, so that's a good guess. Feel free to put in your guesses in the comments. But no one really does comments anyway. Just, whatever guess you have, be ready, okay? No one's gonna pull the sword tonight, but you might find out who that hero is by tonight. But he's not gonna pull Excalibur until probably next week. It's a he, so there, it's a boy. It can't be a girl who pulls it from the stone. There's your hint. But anyway, we're gonna start the show now. So I'm sorry, I'm just rambling on again. So my apologies. This is why we don't do Q&A anymore, because I just talk the whole time. All right, we gotta get started, and I want to try to get back on schedule. So we may not talk in between episodes just to do that. All right. Timestamp 43 minutes, 45 seconds if you're watching Disney Plus. But otherwise, get your play buttons ready. Do not push play until I say so. Some people get confused. They push when I say one. When I do a countdown, it's not when I say one, it's when I say zero or now. Now, there's still one more second when I say one. So just be careful when I count down together. Don't push play when I say one. Push play when I say now. I have to make that clear so no one pushes a second early. All right. All right. Ready? Three, two, one, now. Previously on Once Upon a Time, it's Emma's the Dark One and Merlin's trapped in the tree. I kind of already gave you a recap, so why do we need this? I wonder if we can turn this up. Nope. All volumes are up. This earbud does not work. It used to be where both of them worked, but not anymore. The other one of the earbuds got cut off, so we lost it. We're down a headphone. I still have some blue ones too if these ones ever break. The dwarfs are mining and Emma wants it and Emma's interfering. Yeah, she wants an axe. I was gonna say that, but she didn't grab it yet, so I didn't want to spoil. Emma wants an axe and the dwarfs are mining. If you want something, if you want to keep something, you hold on to it. You don't let go. Emma's like being so evil right now and whispers to the dwarfs, "You want something? Hold on to it." How rude. Anyway, the title thumbnail was trees, apparently. So apparently they found out they're struggling trying to free Merlin. They thought, well, if they can communicate with him like a telephone, then he could tell them how to get them out. Because after all, I mean, you got magic. Why not just do a magical phone call without wires and internet? And And so anyway, they need a mushroom, a magical mushroom that can contact people who are trapped in trees, and then that's a funny way of making a magical telephone. And so now Charming and Arthur are working together like brothers to go find this mushroom that's being protected by magic. They need all the armor and forces they can get that mushroom and talk to Merlin. I mean, communicate with him. We may not be able to free him, but we can communicate with him. Present day wise, people are seeing the same mushroom, but they're wondering what it means because they don't remember trying to free Merlin or trying to communicate with him. Remember that it's another curse. This is our third curse. People forgot their memories again. We jumped 6 weeks. Last time it was a year. Before that, it was 28 years. Now we jumped 6 weeks. I know the curse is kind of being overdone in this show, but bear with us here. Wow, David's having a tantrum and breaking furniture in the sheriff's office. Snow and Charming are having a heart-to-heart conversation. Charming thinks he's not doing enough, and Snow is trying to encourage him. You are a hero. You are leading this down the best you can. Do your best. In any world, you're Snow's cheer. If you're not a hero here, you're a hero in Snow's world. The father and daughter haven't been together since last year, I guess, in our marathon. Well, it hasn't really been a year. It's only been days for these guys. Weeks for us. Mhm. Yes, all Arthur wants to do is get back to Camelot as quick as possible. That's a funny way to putting it. Then Excalibur is magical, and it can only be pulling out by the truest of heroes, like King Arthur, so anyway, Emma's not one of those heroes, and so not one of those true heroes anymore, at least, and so mhm. Uh-huh. She needs a hero to pull the sword from its stone, and she thought a dwarf pickaxe was going to do it, but nope, it's a magical stone and a magical sword, and nothing breaks through magic except kissing it. So I guess Emma could kiss her way out. True love's kiss breaks any curse, so kiss the Excalibur. Risk cutting your lip by kissing the Excalibur. Sharp blade. Kiss it, and it might come out. That's a funny way. True love's kiss is mainly for sleeping curses, but I guess if it breaks any curse, it should break that curse, right? Kiss a sword. Mwah, 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 mwah. Regina's like, enough. I stopped. Regina and the Wicked Witch are having a conversation in Camelot. Regina, you're so mean to your sister. Like, seriously, come on, man. Can't you just make amends? I mean, yes, you don't want her going back to Oz, it's kind of Robin's baby too, you have to share custody or something like that, it's complicated, but come on. Like she's just said that I will give the baby love, support, and the family she needs, but the same will not hold for you. You don't deserve family love or or caring. How rude. Sister's part of the family. Just because she shows up out of nowhere doesn't mean you should disinclude her. If it was a shock to you, get over it. You've been it's been 2 3 seasons now. 2 and a half, whatever. 3 and 5, it's 2 seasons ago. Though then they thought she died and wasn't expecting her to come back till the end of last season. So maybe the shock is still new to you, but you're gonna accept her eventually no matter what. I yeah, sorry. Well, the Wicked Witch, yeah. I don't think it's a really spoiler, the fact that they'll have to accept each other as sisters eventually. They're not always gonna hate each other. Wicked versus evil is not gonna last forever. Pretty sure you were expecting that. Wicked versus evil. Mhm. So, yes, if you I guess I'm only familiar with the Disney version of Sword in the Stone, but in the because of Once Upon a Time, I have learned a little things about the not so family friendly version of King Arthur, and it involved cheating and on your wives and being disloyal and, probably some breaking law of chastity things there too, and with Lancelot, spending nights and, sleeping with Arthur's wife, Guinevere? Guinevere? I can't say her name. See, in the Disney version, Arthur doesn't have a wife. I mean, yeah, Emma would not need to scratch a treasure chest. She has magic. She could just poof it open. So it's probably not Emma who stole from King Arthur. Hook Hook is like, "Oh, mate." Hook is not used to the real world. He's not used to what a hologram is. So when Robin Hood says he's looking at pictures of inside Selena's body, and he's thinking of body parts and being like, "Whoa, mate, 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 whoa, 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 whoa." That would not be appropriate for a family show. Anyway, but Robin's not. He's just looking at holograms of the baby. When you're pregnant, you get holograms in like your first or second trimester or whatever. So. Yep, and like Hook said, things are complicated. Yes, things are complicated with the baby and Robin, seeing pictures of the baby inside Zelena, which is not who he's with. He's with Regina, her sister. So it's like, imagine you're dating someone and you marry them and you're a couple, and then their sister comes along and tricks you into having a baby with them. That's kind of weird. Anyway, so it's kind of complicated that the child is kind of Zelena's mm, child too. Like mother, biological mother is the Wicked Witch, and like stepmother, if Robin was, a stepmother would probably be Regina if Robin and Regina ever got married. Anyway, it's kind of weird. It would be more appropriate if it was Regina and Robin's baby. But anyway, but yeah, it's more complicated that Emma invited Hook to a dinner, and Hook doesn't want to marry Dark One. He wants to marry the real Emma Swan. She doesn't want to be in a he doesn't want to be in a relationship with with the Dark Swan. He wants to be in a relationship with Emma Swan. Dark One and Emma Swan are two different people, just like Rumpelstiltskin and the Dark One. Mhm. So remember, they're going on a quest for the mushroom. Charming and Arthur, and they don't, and Arthur was not born a prince, and that's in the fairy tale as well. Outside of Once Upon a Time, Arthur was a common peasant who pulled sword from his stone and became and Charming was a shepherd who became a prince. So, and kind of a king until the queen cast her curse. So, kind of have that. They have that thing in common. They don't want that. That's when they decide they don't want to be called your majesties anymore. Just treat each other like brothers. Arthur is kind of sharing a little bit on his history with falling in love with Guinevere and why Lancelot was involved, and it was a love triangle, and Arthur was hard to live with, but he made changes to make it easier, and that's what caused them to get married, blah blah blah. And Charming said the same kind of story about Snow White. So I mentioned once before, Arthur's not who he seems. You might want to remember that. Not spoiling anything. Who is he then? You'll find. Well, I mean, he is King Arthur. He's nothing else. Like, you know how Rumple's the crocodile and Beast from Beauty and the Beast? Arthur's just Arthur, but there's a difference between knowing who someone is and knowing what kind of man they are. So they found the mushroom. It's across a swamp, and there is a bridge to, and Charming's safely walking across it. It's not fully stable, but he's walking safely across it. And fortunately, the swamp looks pretty creepy. It has dead people under the water with armor on. That's kind of creepy. Remember there? Oh, I forgot to mention that part. The blue fairy gave Bella a rose, and as long as it still has petals, Rumple lives. If the last petal falls, he dies. It kind of brings back the beating the peaceful circle moment. Because even though in the movie it's the last petal falls and he's a beast forever, unless Tulip's kiss turns him into a prince. This is different because obviously Rumple's actually not a beast. It's Emma who's the beast, and the roses represent how much time he has left to be in a coma before he dies, unless Belle finds a way to save him. Charming and Arthur are going to Belle for answers on the dark one, but so Charming and Arthur couldn't wanted answers about the dark one, and Belle didn't have those answers. But she could have some answers given the fact she lived with the dark one her whole maiden life. But anyway, they decided to take a cup that's not magical, it's just a normal cup, but they're gonna lie about it, about the cup being magical just to try to get the thief out. They're lying about how the cup is the magic cup of truth, and if you drink it, it will let us know who the thief is. If someone is stealing stuff and stealing Camelot things. And so anyway, if the thief hears about this cup that tells the truth, then he's gonna want to run away because if he drinks from it, anyway, the cup's gonna reveal that that he's the thief. So he runs away, but obviously the cup is just a fake. And the, the the smart choice would be not to run if the thief would have known that. Of course, it's a car chase right now. There's mud and dirt going everywhere, and well, except this guy's not from the real world, so he's riding a horse. It's a car and a horse chasing each other instead of two cars, riding through traffic, causing accidents and stuff. Ooh, Charming, Charming goes kind of knows which way the thief is going and goes the other way to block him and uses a stick to knock him off his horse. There you go. Charming goes to pick up the. Now we're back in flashback. Charming goes to pick up the flat. I mean, to pick up a flashback. No, he goes to pick up the mushroom. Yeah, and he puts it in his satchel. Now he's on his way back. Remember the dead people under the ocean, under the swamp, and how the night, how the armor knights are. The armor knights are dead people are trying to kill Charming. They're trying to knock him into the swamp. Boy, boy, boy. Charming's a good hero. It was a good thing he learned how to be a prince, because if he was still a shepherd, he would not survive all those dead encounters trying to attack him in armor and swords to kill them. Oh, and then unfortunately, there was one guard he missed, and, it tricked him by the foot and is dragging him right under the water. Oh, no, he only has one hand holding onto the bridge. If he lets go, he's doomed. It's not the first time he's been dragged. Oh, he let go. He's going down underwater. It's not the first time he's been dragged under. Remember the siren from season 1 that tried to disguise herself as Snow White and give fake love to Charming and drag him into the ocean, into the lake? And, well, his way out was to kill her and, with a dagger that was left on the sea. This time, he just kicks the knight and uses his sword to get escape free, and, since they're dead, you can't kill them, and so anyway, he goes back up to the bridge, and Arthur pulls him to safety. And so Hook is willing to trust Emma on the truth of what happened in Camelot. We're back in present day, and Hook's willing to trust Emma the truth on what happened in Camelot, but Emma doesn't want to tell him the truth, even though Hook trusts her. And so anyway, Emma and Hook are not having a nice date right now. I mean, it's kind of nice. Emma took off her darkness, scaly skin form, and now she's looking like normal Emma. Mm, that is true. Rumple's a bad example of being in a relationship. Emma, that's so inappropriate. Well, that date went so fast, or south fast. It went pretty well to bad. So, and Hook's trying to gain Emma's trust, and Emma just comes up with more manipulation, just like Rumple did. "Do you love me?" Emma says, "And if you don't love me, I'll let you go." And Hook loved her until she became the Dark One. That's when he stopped loving her. Emma doesn't wanna see Hook doesn't wanna see the love of his life be evil. He's not gonna give in to temptation. Good for Hook. He's learned his ways. They even brought up Rumple, which was a bad example. And you think he could change. You think he changed for the better, but no, being the Dark One was the worst. It's not the change of better, it's the change of worse. It's a degression rather than a progression. Never be the Dark One unless you want to be a bad man. Bad woman. We never seen Girl Darklings yet, but we will. Anyway, yes, it is true. Hook was trying to just keep his family together, and Hook just threatened him and threatened to kill him, and while Hook changed for the better, Rumple became a manipulative killer. That is actually true, but Emma doesn't take any sympathy in that because she's the dark one now, not Rumple. Now Emma's the manipulative killer and doesn't take sympathy in that and just tries to brush it off like it was funny and a joke, and Hope didn't like that, and that kind of ended their date, honestly. Emma's not the same person she was like 5 episodes ago. She is now evil, which is everything they tried to avoid last season, and they succeeded for a short time. And sometimes there's other ways to turn people evil besides temptation. Temptation didn't work, but being the dark one did. Hmm. So anyway, we had a heart-to-heart conversation between Arthur and Charming, and Arthur's like the brother Charming never had, and it's not hurtful because his twin brother was evil and he doesn't deserve to be his brother. So anyway, Arthur is a better brother than James ever was. So anyway, and it's actually true. No, most times that's hurtful, but not in this situation. Arthur. There's the mushroom. Anyway, back to the Charming and Arthur's here thing, storyline. They're sharing stories about heroic shepherds and peasants, and how a magical rock uh, determined I was a perfect hero. Blah 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 blah. And Arthur's willing to he made mistakes and he had some ups and downs, and he learned never to give up even in loss. So he's lost people too. We've lost loved ones on the show before. We've had people die like Neil. So anyway, and then in present day, they found the thief that was stealing everything, and, um, and there was supposed to be a magic bean in there that would help get Arthur and his whole Camelot team back home, but, unfortunately, the bean was gone, and the thief mentioned he didn't take it. There was no bean in there. Anyway, the question of whether he's lying or not, Arthur decides to trust him, but they still lock him away. And then, oh, by the way, they've just found out the heroes in Regina's vault where all her hearts are, right? They found out, um, anyway, they found out, that, in a spell book that, the mushroom that Charming and Arthur found in the camp, it was what they used to try to communicate Merlin, and so now maybe they're thinking, "What if we can communicate Merlin in the present day?" So, then just to see what happened to him in the past 6 weeks. Is he still a tree? Did they free him? What happened, right? And so anyway, just thoughts that are going on, and then we jump back into the flashback where Charming goes back to Camelot empty-handed, having lost the mushroom, and Arthur still rewards him for being heroic and decides to make him a member of the Round Table. You know, Arthur and the Round Table. It's not in the Disney version, but actual fairy tale. There's a Round Table that has Lancelot and Arthur on it, and Charming's now included on the Round Table, sitting in the stage Perilous. That's a special chair. Only a special person sits in the golden chair. You know, when all the other ones are normal. And normally you'd think the king would sit in the golden chair, but no, it's someone else. So anyway, sit down, Charmy. He gets the pride and heroic gesture of being a knight at the round table. He has to remember though, it's being a hero is not about the glory and the chairs and the gold. It's about protecting people and love and righteousness. So hopefully he doesn't get carried away in this silliness. Which is why I'm saying something's off about Arthur. He's a little too prideful of precious things. Snow White's walking in the hallway because her baby's crying too loudly. It's like when you're in church and your baby cries, you step out into the hallway. And as soon as Snow White's in the hallway, he finds out Lancelot's alive. Yes, yes, there's a villain in Camelot, and that's Emma Swan. There's another villain, Arthur. Yeah, I didn't say this. I didn't say Camelot's not what it seems. I just said Arthur is who he's not. Arthur's not who he seems. I said Arthur is not who he seems, but Lancelot says Camelot is not what it seems. So if you thought I spoiled that something was off about Arthur, I did not spoil because it's Camelot. He noticed that Lancelot said Camelot. Something's wrong about Camelot. It's like an illusion of sorts. See, the burden of a king is putting your kingdom before other people. That seems evil. Anyway, so yes, it turns out the mushroom wasn't lost. Arthur stole it from Charming's pouch and only claimed that he lost it when he tripped and almost fell into the water. So anyway. hmm So so Arthur had the mushroom all along and took it when Charming wasn't looking, and so he's not who he seems, and Camelot's not what it seems either. So. So, plot twist, the thief was not just an ordinary thief. He was working with King Arthur and knowing exactly that there was never a bean in there, and he didn't and not wanting the heroes to find out, Arthur offers him a deal. If you commit suicide and kill yourself, I promise you'll be a noble hero in Camelot. And, because there is no magic bean and possibly no way to get back to Camelot, uh, Arthur wants to evilly, make his home in Storybrooke and make a new Camelot. And, part of that part of that will come due to this thief's sacrifice. So he kills one of his own Camelot subjects, basically, and he justifies it as being a heroic for Camelot, being heroic for Camelot. And so when he's manipulating the thief who stole all the stuff in the camp, including possibly a magic bean, even though he didn't, um, he dies. Yeah, Arthur poisons him in a manipulative trick of thinking he's sacrificing his life for Camelot when really he's sacrificing his life for nothing. So yes, Arthur's a villain. And in the meantime, let's see, Hook and Robin Hood have Hook and Robin Hood have a conversation, and then we see Belle about to buy sandwiches, only to find out that almost the last petal has fallen off the rose, and so she runs back to her Rumple to make sure she's with him when he dies, and only to find out that the petals are actually going back on top of the rose, and he's waking up, and so he runs back to see if to see if Rumple's awake, and then finds out Rumple's missing, and Emma kidnapped him, and Emma's using a sword from Hook's ship, a sword that cut Rumple before he was the Dark One, a sword that, almost killed him when he was trying to save his wife, something Rumple had before the Dark One, and he's using that sword to bring back the Rumpelstiltskin before Rumpelstiltskin. We brought Rumple back from the dead. Woohoo! Well, he wasn't dead. He was in a coma this whole time, but he's back. He's back. That's what matters. So now that he's back. So, plot twist, Emma wants Rumple to pull Excalibur from the stone. So the only reason he brought Rumple back, and it's funny, Dark Ones know things like this. Like the heroes, Belle's been trying forever to try to wake Rumple up, but Dark Ones are always one step ahead, and they only do it when it suits them. And so that's why Emma's never woken up Rumple this whole time. And 3 episodes into the season, she finally needs a hero to pull Excalibur from the stone. You probably thought that was gonna be Hook, but really it was a distraction from the actual plot. She just needed a sword. She just needed an object that touched Rumple before he was the Dark One, and that was Hook's the only thing that has to be like that because he was alive when Rumple was pre Dark One. So anyway, she takes that sword, the sword that almost killed him once, and because but since he was a coward, luckily it didn't, and he takes that sword instead of to kill him to bring him back from the dead. So that's kind of cool. Usually a sword is what you use to kill someone, but Emma uses it, doesn't stab it obviously through Rumple's body, but uses it to kind of force him awake. And so yes, Rumple's alive, back and alive. He hasn't been present in the show. I mean, he has as the devil on Emma's shoulder, but he hasn't. The Rumpelstiltskin, himself, not the Dark One, has not been on the show since um I guess if we're talking about the Dark One and Rumple as two different people, he's not been on the show since what, season 1? But no. The actor at least hasn't been acting on the show since season 4 in the finale when he was dying, and being the villain, of course. So anyway, Emma wants to turn him into a hero. It's something he's never been before. I mean, there's been times when you probably thought he was a hero, but he was still the Dark One, even when he sacrificed his life to kill Peter Pan. Anyway, his heroic efforts ended up being wasted. So Anyway, now he's the Emma wants to turn him into a hero, and then his her job for him is to pull Excalibur from the stone. Because Rumpel is no longer the dark one, it took every single sin out of him. It took every single darkness out of him. So right now, it's his heart is pure white, perfect. Red heart means that you're good, you make mistakes. Black heart means you're purely evil, you do nothing but mistakes. And then white heart means you don't make mistakes right now. He's pretty much Christ-like at this point. He's perfectly Christ-like at this point. He's a blank slate. You know how every baby's born with the light of Christ. They have not made a single sin yet. They just about got born. Rumpel's like a 70-year-old man being a baby because he's pretty much born now. All the sins he made are part of the dark one now. It's not his sins to repent for anymore. So, and it's Emma's. So anyway, Emma's now the pure. Rumpel's now the Emma's evil. Rumpel is now the pure heart soul. So he's perfect right now. But obviously in the coming episodes he's gonna make a mistake or two. But anyway, Emma's gonna try to turn him into a hero before that happens, and before because like not anyone, not even Snow White, can pull the sword from the stone. I know we've seen that before in season 3, but that was a fake sword. So anyway, you have to be the purest of heart. In real life, that would pretty much be Christ, but like, you have to be. Well, that can't be true because we saw Arthur pull Excalibur from the stone last week. So I think the rules with the sword and the stone means is that you have to be maybe not perfectly righteous, but mostly righteous in some ways. I don't know. Anyway, Rumpel's kind of the most righteous right now, is basically what I'm saying, given the fact that he's not made a sin since he woke up. So anyway, next episode now. Sorry, that was a little weird to explain, but we're moving on. Um, let's see. Let me tell you the timestamp. 43 minutes, 45 seconds, just like last time. 43 minutes, 45 seconds, episode 4 of season 5, The Broken Kingdom. I hope you have it all set and ready for Disney Plus. Otherwise, pause the live stream. Hulu DVD, it's whatever the next episode's called, right? You don't either the timestamp's different because of the extra Disney Plus credits that get put at the end. But anyway, so yeah, so 43 minutes, 45 seconds. It's called The Broken Kingdom. If you don't know which episode to click on, should be the 4th episode of your first disc if you're watching the DVD, and Hulu is just season 5, episode 4. So, assuming everyone's ready, there's no comments. All right, yeah, no comments. So, all right, I'm gonna push play. Number, not when I say one, when I say now. 3, 2, 1, now. Remember Merida? Emma almost crushed Merida's heart, and Emma put it back in. So Regina's pretending to be the savior. Um, Charming is part of the round table now. And they have a way to communicate with Merlin. We're in flashback form. Not the 6-week Camelot flashback. Way back. Hey, that well looks like the one from the Enchanted Forest in Storybrooke. How coincidental. So Arthur was once an orphan, and he was bullied by a bunch of people, you know, in this place called Camelot before it was Camelot. It's kind of sad. He was bullied by all the villagers with no kingdom. Yep, follow your heart. I think Arthur was bad at following his heart. He was he gave in to temptation. Now we've seen this before. We jump years later where he's an adult and he pulls out the sword, and it's only a half a sword, but we've seen it before. Lancelot. Mhm. We didn't see the aftermath after he found out he only pulled out a half a sword. That's a Camelot twist. When Arthur pulls out the sword, do you expect it to be a whole sword or a half a sword? A whole sword. This is a new version of the legend where it's only a half a sword. He doesn't pull the whole sword out because he doesn't want people to know. He has to find the other half of the sword now. And then the title sequence is the Camelot Tower. Arthur is standing at the round table, just staring in the distance and out on the window. Charming and Arthur are having a conversation. Charming's a little hesitant on Arthur's motivations of destroying the darkness by reforging Excalibur into one sword. By taking the dagger, he knows about the Dark One's dagger. Arthur knows about it, and he knows it's the other half of the sword he's looking for. And if he forges it into one blade again, he could destroy the darkness. Emma loves making dream catchers. It's something she did with Neil. Good flashbacks to her first love and Henry's father. I don't think Neil would be happy that Emma's the dark one, especially since Neil's the son of Rumpelstiltskin. He's grown up with the father figure dark one before, and to see his wife as the dark one. I don't know. I don't know. Our ex-wife, I guess, and because they you know they never got married or whatever. Rumple, not the one that just came back alive, but like the devil on the shoulder Rumple. Is tempting Emma to take the dagger and use it for evil, but Emma's trying so hard to resist. Yep, Rumpelstiltskin is stuck in Emma's head, or should I say just the dark one? It's just the dark one. It doesn't have to be Rumple. The darkness can form in anybody. Hook and Emma and Henry are gonna go find a quiet place to be while they discuss Arthur's motivations. Regina was gonna go hide the dagger somewhere safer, but, they're arguing about whether they should give it to Arthur or not. Mhm. I don't trust Arthur. We found suspicious things about him just recently. 5 years earlier, so this flashback that we're having about Arthur and having him just so Camelot's very young. Um, Camelot was only built 5 years ago, the castle and everything. So that's crazy. This was during the years of Regina's curse when everyone forgot who they were and stuff. Yes, and Arthur is kind of, what is it? Well, object what addictive or what's the word? Idle. He's kind of idle. He's choosing things over his loved ones. He should dance with his wife. You can take a break from finding the other half of the sword. I think Guinevere's not happy because he always says 5 minutes and lies about it. Uh-huh. It's kinda sad. That's not how you should treat your wife. You shouldn't put everything above her. You shouldn't put anything above her. Oh, it's the queen's birthday, and Arthur is wasting instead of saying happy birthday or giving her a surprise party, he's wasting it on trying to find the dagger. See, he's kinda stuck in his ways, seeking for glory and not being righteous here. He's kinda being selfish, self-righteous, selfish, whatever. And Lancelot and Guinevere are having a dance, and they're falling in love, so now we get to kinda see the love triangle, except this is after Arthur and her are already married. Mhm. Guinevere is a little bit happy now. The fact that they gave her flower petals of the flower she loves the most. Yeah. Queen Guinevere. Queen Guinevere knows that Arthur didn't plan the surprise party, it was Lancelot. Lancelot's a more truer husband than Arthur ever was. She might leave him to go to Lancelot. You know that doesn't happen because she's in with the Storybrooke people 5 years later, but I wish I could say that's present, but that's not present. We've had be cursed, remember? 5 years later. Anyway, Arthur comes out, and as soon as Guinevere puts her hopes up that Arthur's gonna choose his wife over everything else, he just comes out saying, I know where the other half of the dagger is. It's a half a day's ride from here. I'm leaving. Bye." You can't put your wife first. What's wrong with you? We're gonna restore Excalibur from tonight. Wow. I don't think that's gonna happen. Arthur's a little shocked because Charming just mentioned he died, and then they found out he's back. Cora, the Queen of Hearts, lied about his death. I killed him a long time ago, not really. Oh yeah, and he did marry them. Remember when Charming's mother was about to die? I was once Lancelot for Halloween, by the way. Guinevere Veal is not willing to break up with her husband just yet. Before divorcing him, she wants to try to see if he can get her husband back by finding the sword first, and then seeing if Arthur chooses her over the sword. Hmm. Yeah, Guinevere doesn't care about the scroll. Star, moon, and sun. That's what causes the dark one bolt to open. We've seen it before. You probably don't remember, but we've seen it before when Emma was being forced as the dark glass. Sorry, getting a lot of notifications here. So it looks like Lancelot and Guinevere are in a mine darkness. Remember when the darkness was attacking Emma? Here it comes to attack Lancelot. Who wants Lancelot to be the dark one? Not me. Of course, this was 5 years ago. Rumple was already the dark one. So why is there darkness surrounding Lancelot? Hey, that's what Hook said to Emma. No, you can't have him. Oh no, wait. Robin said that when Regina was being attacked. But then when Emma was being attacked, Hook tried to stop her. Guinevere kind of cares about Lancelot more than he does his more than she does her husband Arthur. It's gonna be hard to discover what's part of the true legend and what's part of Once Upon a Time because I only know the Disney movie. Does she actually go after Lancelot, and does Arthur become wifeless? I don't know. Someone will have to answer that. How's the true story of King Arthur go? Not the Disney version. How does anyone know? Guinevere kissed him and, after saving his life from darkness. And they just realized that the kiss was kind of inappropriate given the fact she's a married woman to King Arthur. So they have to justify it and be like, "Let's pretend this never happened." Mhm. So, Guinevere, who's, now 5 years later, still married to Arthur and sticking by Arthur's side no matter what, is saying Arthur did worse than kiss from a queen. She did, because in the legend it mentions he could kiss Queen Guinevere, and you thought that was the case in Lancelot did made? No, it was a lot worse. And Arthur trying to speak ill of Lancelot tries to say that the dagger isn't safe, and Charming tries to explain that he brought it with him. And unfortunately, this Snow White stole the dagger before Charming could give it to Arthur, and it was missing. There's this girl. That's kind of funny. Wow, remember Violet from last week? We didn't see her in the last episode we watched. Henry's just trying to find a safe place for Emma and Hook to lay low. But Violet overheard them talking, and he's like, "Who's in here?" While Violet and Henry are gonna go on a date, while Emma and Hook do the same. In Violet's farm. It is up for debate because yes, to Henry, it's scary to tell your mother about the first crush, but it should be scarier the other way around because she's the dark one. Rumple's standing right there and Hook doesn't see anything. Hook got rid of his devils on the shoulder by throwing them off the plank on his ship, but we don't have a ship right now, so you might as well use a horse. For of course, horses can sense darkness. They get scared, so it's like, I don't know if the horse is gonna trust you. So, so Lancelot still loves Guinevere, even 5 years later. Camelot, present day, I guess. Not really. still past. All of this is past. Remember that Zelena episode, the Wicked Witch episode, where we started out in the present, but then we went to the past and stayed there almost the entire episode until the very end? That's what tonight is. We didn't even go into the present at the beginning. Our very first scene of the episode was actually little boy Arthur when he was a boy. So it's like we've been in flashbacks, like when Arthur was a boy to when he was an adult to when all our Storybrooke folks came to Camelot. We've not been in the present at all so far. Avalon. Too bad we never spent a season going there. So there's magical sand from the land of Avalon, and it makes something appear whole. Appear like it's been completed, but really it wasn't. It's like if you ripped a page out of a book and you poured the sand, the book would come back together. If you broke a sword in half, like my Excalibur, if you see my wooden Excalibur in our video we made back in the summer, I mentioned how it got cut in half. The sand would probably put it back together if that magic was real. But anyway, Avalon, man, references to other magical lands that we never get to see. Luckily, Camelot's not one of them, right? Camelot was referenced in season 3 and 4. So Rumpel warns Guinevere that the pain you shouldn't worry about is a broken sword; it's the broken heart. Imagine what Arthur will feel when he finds out about you and Lancelot. You got to be careful. Snow White's been here before. So we just got a flashback of Guinevere and Lancelot arriving to this dagger, but before they can grab it, there's a protection spell and Rumple's guarding it, and he offers them a deal with Sam to make the sword appear completed, but it's not really. It's fake, right? And mhm. So anyway, let me just catch you up here. Um, Guinevere takes the sand from Rumple. Rumple. This is a connect. This is a direct connection to season 4 when Belle was being kidnapped by the Queens of Darkness, right? And it was talking about the gauntlet from Camelot that led you to someone's greatest weakness, and that's how Belle found out about the dagger, pushed Rumple across the line. Anyway, now we get to see where he got the gauntlet from, and he got it from Guinevere. We know it was from Camelot, but Guinevere. And he said, Good for me, not so good for Camelot. Yeah, Camelot is kinda broken, it's not good, you know? It's kinda broken, broken relationships, not the kingdom is kinda fragile. Arthur's kinda greedy towards possessions over his wife. Anyway, marriage and kingdom will be broken forever. Stop trying to mend that sword, or else I'm leaving you. And that, that's basically what Guinevere is saying. She's standing up for herself, and not, Arthur's not an abusive husband. He's just choosing possessions over his wife, and that's not a good relationship to be in. Hmm. Arthur just couldn't stand losing his heart to Guinevere, and he couldn't stand having Guinevere walk away from him. So to force him by his side and to force her to stay his wife forever, he threw the sands on her. Remember how the sand is supposed to replace what's broken to make it fixed? Like if you poured it on the sword, it would fix itself. Well, he poured the sand on Guinevere, and it forcing her to love Arthur and fix a broken heart. Fix a broken heart. Yeah, King Arthur, put, Guinevere under his spell. Um, yeah, I don't wanna marry King Arthur, guys. You don't want once you marry him, you're forced with him forever. By the sands of Avalon. So I will never get to see that place in this fairy tale. Camelot was a long waiting because we saw Snow White pull a big sword from Excalibur once. I mean, from the stone, and it was not real, right? They talked about Camelot a lot in the Neverland arc. Then they brought it back up in the Frozen arc when that was being kidnapped by the Queens of Darkness and the yeah, Camelot Golic of Camelot was being used. And now we're back here. Anyway, yes, so Snow and Lancelot are finally putting the dagger somewhere safe, the same place that Guinevere and Lancelot were like 5 years ago. And anyway. Fighting, that's a good lesson to every couple out there. Fighting doesn't resolve problems, you know? We decide to focus on what matters most and put your children first. So, instead of fighting about trusting who and who, just put your children first. That's one way you work together, and that's how the Charmings will never get divorced. I wish Arthur would learn that with his wife, but unfortunately, he just forces his wife to be by his side. To be by his side. Like I said, the horse is scared of Emma, and that's why, because she's scared of darkness, she will never get on it. Once they get back to Camelot, Emma and Hook are gonna start a future together, and they're gonna live together and, be a happy couple in a farmhouse with a white fence. Now Emma's finally on the horse without the horse freaking out of her darkness, and they luckily Hook got on it first, and the horse trusts Hook. So the horse trusts Hook, Emma, and the horse can trust Emma through Hook. Emma cannot get on the horse by herself, but she can with Hook. And now they're galloping away as Rumple, the devil on her shoulder, leaves her mind. Arthur's laughing like he knows something. Yep. Lancelot's going to jail. How sad. And he gets the and Guinevere is kissing Arthur right in front of his face. Oh, that must hurt. Wow. I mean, to be fair, she is married to Arthur, but, but remember, she was forced on his side all along, and Lancelot never knew anything about that. And so, he's right to think the sands of Avalon were on him. We're on Guinevere. And it's sad to see she chose the evil king over him. It's kinda sad. And look, they have some sand left over for the Charmings. Now the Charmings are gonna force their way onto Arthur's side. Yeah, Arthur has the power to turn everyone against him with him. It's like it's like knowing someone when everyone turns against you, it's like the opposite of that. Everyone's with you. Merida is also locked into prison. Plot twist, we haven't seen her since the first episode of the season. She's back. She's back. An enemy of King Arthur is probably a friend of mine too. Merida hates King Arthur as well. Looks like Arthur locked her up as well. Now we got Merida back into the story. Woohoo! Should you hate Arthur or should you hate Lancelot? Um, Regina and Robin are just gonna go along with this. They don't know about the sand of Avalon. Look at a beautiful valley and a beautiful lake where no devil on the shoulder can enter. Emma and Hook are about to have a happy moment. So kind of a cool play, wasn't it? Um, you know, finding a place to keep Excalibur safe. It's the same place Snow White and Charming had the visions of Emma turning dark and pulling her heart out. You know, pulling Snow's heart out and saying, "I don't care." Remember, she had the visions of Emma turning evil, and Charming had a vision of Emma being good, and they wanted to ensure that Emma would stay good and not be evil. They failed, but it's never too late to steer a daughter on the right path. Anyway, we were just being reminded of the visions, and how the Arthur Isaac, the author of Henry's book, said that the savior turns dark at the end of the story. The story ends with the savior being evil. So anyway, and maybe that it did include her being the dark one. So that's what it include. Anyway, yes, and then we came to the rough moment where Snow White had a choice to either trust Lancelot with the dagger or not, and then luckily Arthur interfered and made her decision easier when he revealed his evil plot, which was probably not smart, but anyway, yes, trust Lancelot. And the only reason why they're trusting Arthur now is because of the sands of Avalon. And our flashback ends with Emma and Hook kissing in the field of Guinevere's favorite flowers, the pink ones. We're back. We're finally in the present storyline where Rumple's tied up to a to or to a cage. He's not in prison, but he's tied up to a cage, and Emma's trying to talk him into being a hero. Hmm. Looks like in the other flashback though, Lancelot finally left Camelot and then eventually made his way to the Enchanted Forest where Cora killed him, right? And now we know how he faked his death and how he's here now. So there you go. That wraps up Lancelot's story. Merida is tied to Emma's car. Emma pulls out Merida's heart. So plot twist. Emma, we haven't seen Merida in the Storybrooke present day yet. She's only been in flashbacks and before the curse. So anyway, Merida is tied up to Emma's car, yellow car, right, and pulls her heart out. You know, and obviously Merida thinks Emma's going to kill her, but she only uses her heart to control her and commands her to grab her bow. And says, Merida calls her a coward for pulling out her heart because she can't resist the darkness. But who's a real coward? Rumpelstiltskin. But in order for that to change, Emma needs a little help to make him brave. Get it from Pixar? Brave. That's what the movie's called. Anyway, so it's up to Merida to make her if she wants her heart back and she wants to stay alive, she has to go help Rumple be brave. So anyway, I mean, we kind of had that cliffhanger at the end of last episode when we found out Rumple was finally alive. We just didn't get the Merida part. And so anyway, it would have not taken a whole episode to find out, who how Emma's going to turn Rumple into a hero. We would have not needed a whole episode on that. But the reason why I took a whole episode is our entire episode was in flashback. We had Camelot 5 years ago and Camelot 6 weeks ago. Just like in the Wicked Witch episode when we were flashing back to Robin in New York, and then we went way back to when he was in the Enchanted Forest stealing from the Wicked Witch. And it was two flashbacks in one that and since half of the episode is built off of flashbacks, when you have two flashback storylines, it ends up covering almost the entire episode, except for the very beginning or very end. Um, this instance, we didn't even get a beginning starter scene. There was no continuation from the last episode, present wise. We just went straight into the past, and then we finally continued the present storyline at the very end. That was it. So, anyway, um, there is a lot of episodes like that in the first half of season 5. Season 4 only had one, but they expect more like that. Because remember, in the first episode of season 5, the first episode we watched last week, it was all present day, and there was only a flashback at the beginning. So it was like the opposite. We're gonna get but now that we jumped 6 weeks later, and that's kind of all the past now, right? We are, we're gonna have episodes like that where it's pretty much all past, and then we jump to the present at the end, where there's no progression in the main storyline. We're just focused on who these characters are. So anyway, sorry for that little filler episode there, but we're moving on to the next one. It's called Dreamcatchers. Emma and Regina form a plan to free Merlin. Finally, we're going to free Merlin tonight. I think I mentioned at the beginning of our live stream that that's what was going to happen. So get ready. We're finally going to do that. This is our last episode for tonight too. So they better free Merlin, right? And with that said, we're going to get started. I've been lying when I said I was not going to talk in between episodes, but luckily I've been keeping it to 1 to 2 minutes, so that's good. All right. So if everyone has their timestamp at 0, I'll tell you the timestamp. It's just loading. Give me a second. Okay, hang on. And okay. 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 The timestamp is 43 minutes and 45 seconds. So if you have the Disney Plus version, make sure you have it at 43 minutes and 45 seconds. Season 5, episode 5, Dreamcatchers, Once Upon a Time. Okay. If you have Hulu and DVD, timestamp is different probably. But anyway, but yeah, Dreamcatchers, episode 5. So of season 5, it's 5-5. Get it? Talk about golden double numbers, right? We're going to watch that episode. So anyway, wow, we're at 1 hour and 50 minutes. So by the time we finish this, it will be exactly 2 hours and 30 minutes since we started our live stream, which will give us barely less than 10 minutes, probably 9 minutes at the end of the live stream, which is great. So all right, we're gonna start the episode. Remember, not when I say one, when I say now. 3, 2, 1, now. Previously on Once Upon a Time. Oh, this is the usher that was at Emma's theater back in 1983 or 1989, I think. Because Emma was born in 1983, so if she was a little girl, it was a few years later. I think it was 1989. Nope. This was back when someone else was the dark one before Rumpelstiltskin, and it looks like the dark one stole a tear off Merlin's eye. Mhm. Gonna turn him into a tree. This is how Merlin turned into a tree. double, this was again just like episode one. This is a one scene flashback where we see how Merlin turns into a tree. He loses the love of his life and he misses her. And the Dark One uses that pain to turn him into a tree. That's how he became a tree. Emma's watching for now. Now we're into the real flashback of the episode. The one that's 6 weeks ago. Um, not in real life, in the show. 6 weeks ago in the show, and Emma's using a dream catcher to, bring back memories of the tree. Using a dream catcher on the tree of how Merlin turned into a tree. And look at our thumbnail. It's a pumpkin. It's a pumpkin. Are we getting Cinderella or what? Or is this this was actually the Halloween episode, the episode that aired right before Halloween. So happy Halloween, everybody, when it's not really Halloween. Yeah, Regina, Emma's not you. When she gave into dark magic, she turned evil, but that doesn't mean Emma's gonna turn evil. Well, we just saw her turn evil, so obviously Regina's right. But if we didn't jump 6 weeks ahead, we wouldn't know this, right? Maybe the writer should have not done another curse. Maybe they should have kept us by surprise. Maybe we needed another half a season to see her turn dark. Maybe they're right though. We don't want this to drag on longer. It was kind of already hinted at last season. We don't need to hint it at another season. We just want to get this arc over with, so we don't have to talk about Emma being evil anymore. Now remember, they found out Arthur was a villain in the last episode, but that was all flashback. Now that they erased their memories and they don't remember anything that happened in Camelot, they still think Arthur's a hero. They have no idea that he's a villain. Over your dead body. Hook's like Henry's trying to impress a girl, and Hook's like, "Hey, I know a way around women. Let me help you with some advice." And Regina's like, "Over my dead body, Hook. You have a weird way with." Yep. Rumple is missing. Belle just found that out 2 episodes ago. Actually, we just haven't been focusing on the present lately. Yeah, and see, even Rumple wants to see Belle. Wants to let her know that he's okay. Rumple's trying to give Emma advice from one dark one to another. Okay, so here's the lesson here. The more you justify what you're doing, the more you're pushing them away. Take it from me, you'll always lose the ones you love the most. I put that in the trailer last week just to get you guys a hint of what's happening here. When you choose evil, you lose the ones you love the most. That's how Rumple lost Belle, and that's how Emma's gonna lose her loved ones if she doesn't be careful. Emma, white hair, your white hair matches with my white hair. Except I'm not wearing dark clothes like you are. I'm wearing gray for the storyboard marathon, but Merida is now commanded by Emma's heart. I mean, by her own heart to take Rumple to the woods and train him to be a hero. Rumple talks about how his plans were always hidden. Because he's like, "Why do you need Excalibur? What's the whole plan here?" And Emma's keeping her plans hidden. Rumple's trying to keep his plan. Rumple kept his plans hidden, but the reasons were not. The reasons were he was doing it all for his son, and Emma's talking about how that was noble, you know. And she's technically doing it for her loved ones too. She doesn't just have a son though; she has a boyfriend she loves, she has parents. She's doing it for a lot of people, and we still don't know what she's planning. And so that's when Rumple says, "The more you justify what you're doing," that's what Rumple did. All he did was justify that it was all for his son, and that's what got him into trouble. He still lost his son in the process, and Emma still tries to explain that he's stronger than him and smarter than him. But Rumpel says the more you justify, the more you lose the ones you care about the most. Emma then, after sending Merida and Rumpel into the woods, she goes to her garage where she finds a lot of dream catchers, and that's where everyone's memories are. If she wants to ever give them back, she has to bring those dream catchers to them. Look, there's an hourglass in the background. Can you tell? Look at the. Did you see that hourglass? It's running sand in the background. I wonder why that's there. Just for decoration. I didn't notice that before. Never know what you can see and on your millionth watch of Once Upon a Time. So see, look, get this. Remember when the Dark One took Merlin's tear just a few minutes ago, and it was a tear of lost love. He misses the one he misses a person he loved. If a tear of loss, like a heartbreak or a divorce or whatever, if a tear of loss trapped Merlin in a tree, maybe another tear of lost love will take him out. Henry's trying to relate to Violet. Violet lost his mother when she was only like 3, and Henry lost his father before he got a chance to know. Yeah. Violet and Henry really have a strong couple relationship because, they both have a parent that they lost, and, they haven't had to talk about it to each other before. And so, anyway, it's kinda sad, really, but, Henry's trying to be the hero of Camelot by pulling a fake sword out of the stone. He's trying to be like King Arthur, except he can't carry a sword very well. A little heavy, he's only 13. Whoa! And he breaks the fence and scares the horses. Of course, Sir Margus is Violet's father, and now Henry and Violet's father are having their first encounter. Remember, fathers are pretty protective of their daughters, and and they take their daughters seriously, and so if you wanna win a daughter's heart, you have to run it by the father first. Wow, what a rude father. You know, Violet's gonna marry someone who's a knight, not someone who just writes with a pen. Are you gonna save my when ogres attack, are you saving my daughter with a pen? I thought so. And Henry gives no answers. And he's like, you know, he she needs to be with someone who's familiar with this world. And so, anyways, like, stay away from my daughter kinda thing. Of course, Henry won't listen. Mhm. Well, Violet's horse is missing, and Henry's gonna go find it, and he's gonna enlist help from the Dark One, which is not the smartest idea, even though that's your mom. So, okay, we're getting flashbacks from season 1. Remember when, Henry first brought Emma to Storybrooke to return everyone's happy endings? Well, things are different now. A lot has changed since then, and the characters are not who they were back then. They've all changed and developed into better people and better characters since then. And so anyway, and he's like, "Well," you know, and he's like, "Well, show me that the mom is still in there, willing to give everyone's happy endings back." And she's like, "This is me. This is who I am." And Henry's like, "Prove it." So Emma, luckily not giving in to her darkness, decides to help her son get return a happy ending. She's for once not being a villain for for now or for this episode probably. Merida, who also forgot the last 6 weeks of her life, remember she was on her way to save her brothers before the curse started. And so the last thing she remembers was going to find her brothers before they got killed. Now, I think in flashback form, um, she does eventually. Now I know this for sure, but I'm trying not to spoil much. She does eventually save her brothers, but she doesn't remember it, so she still thinks her brothers are in danger. I'm not gonna say anything else. I'm sorry, but you know how she saves her brothers. I'll keep that spoiled. You know she wants to save her brothers from danger. We heard about it in episode 1. You know, the question is, are her brothers safe or not? We'll find out in flashbacks eventually, not tonight, but next and the week after. Only You. That's a good, romantic song, right? There's even an episode title later in the season called Only You. It's kinda cool. Mhm. And it worked with Neil, but, you know, Emma's remembering Neil a lot, missing him so much. I bet he would not be happy knowing that you're the Dark One, though. Like, we've already had this conversation before, you know, he's lived with one. His father. Anyway, let's go find the source. Mhm. Henry's trying to learn the sword fight. Mhm. Henry gets advice from both of his mothers. Daniel was just a stable boy, no business of royalty. That's why Cora killed him. And Regina loved him because he was different. And that's what Henry should be to Violet. Be someone different. Don't try to be like everyone else. It's a good thing that you're from a different land. So anyway, that gives Emma a good idea of how to get their lost tear. Regina lost her loved one when Cora ripped out her heart, and so maybe that's how they get their lost tear to free Merlin. Remember this? Remember when Cora killed Daniel? Mhm. This was sad when we watched it happen in our live streams so long ago in season 1. How could a mother kill a boyfriend? How could a mother do that to their daughter's true love? That's like my aunt crushing my cousin's fiance's heart out. That's kinda sad. That's so sad. Emma's even seen it for the first time. Emma grabs the tear from Regina's eye. Yeah. I've never seen a single mother kill their child's boyfriend's heart and crush it. That's horrible. Cora's the worst mother on the show, like, honestly. Mhm. Henry's scarf, that's kinda smart. Henry's scarf has his fingerprints on it, making the door protections built in gets Henry walking through. Mhm. This is the past, in case you're wondering. I know it's Granny's, but it's not in Storybrooke Granny. It's, Granny's in the Camelot. Remember how they took it through a tornado? Violet's coming up for a date. Henry and Violet are having a nice date. Mhm. Violet and Henry are really in love. They're just 13 though. It's soda. Pepsi. Wow. Yeah. Where's your food? You're just sitting at the table talking and having a drink. Where's your food? You have an empty plate for nothing? Violet does not know what a movie is. She's from fairy tale land. There are no movies or electricity. Not the first time. Neil Bellfire mentioned a movie to Mulan, and they're like, "What's a movie?" It's like what you're watching right now. Well, I don't know. I don't know what courting means, so if they told me that, I would not say anything. First breakup. You get your first crush, and it's your first breakup. Wow, Henry, that you must feel bad. Wow, she just wants to be friends. Yeah, I really feel for you, buddy. It's hard to find the right one, huh? Wow, you really thought they'd be a couple at some point in the future? Nope. Wow, they broke up pretty fast. They just barely met 3 episodes ago. Crazy. What did Meredith steal from Rumple's shop, huh? Yeah, so Henry and Violet went on a date. Regina got her sad tear from watching Daniel die all over again. That's and what else about it? Yeah, Henry's mother's giving, Henry advice about being from a different one and then pressing it. Yeah, we got a lot of flashbacks there. And so they finally, in present day, Emma and Henry finally found Violet's horse, and they're trying to feed it pumpkin. It's scared because remember when Emma got on a horse at the end of last episode, needed Hook to gain the horse's trust? Now the horse needs to gain Henry's trust in order to trust Emma. So you gotta get a horse's trust through the boyfriend, and then your son. So anyway, yep. Now they got the horse to calm down, and they fed it pumpkin like Halloween, and now they're going to return it back to Violet. The heroes just found out about Excalibur and found out, oh, Emma's been hiding it in the cave this whole time in her basement. Hmm. So apparently they were trying to pull Excalibur from the stone, but remember what happened the last time? Was someone did that without magic? Emma has magic and is immortal, so it didn't work on her. But remember last time when some guy who hated Arthur pulled it and turned into dust? Someone else, Hook was about to turn into dust himself and die in the process. Of course, knowing what I know and knowing how the plot thickens, it's kind of funny. If someone I know pulled Excalibur and actually didn't die, it would ruin the whole rest of the plot. Because someone else is immortal, and I'm not going to share who, because I don't want to spoil it. But anyway, But yeah, they tried to pull Excalibur from the luckily, Regina stopped Hook from pulling Excalibur from the stone, and, because we don't wanna see him turn into dust, and, we, they came back upstairs. Henry sends a text that Emma's on her way back. So instead of searching the rest of the house for Rumpel, 'cause they found out he was there, he was captured. But now Emma has him somewhere else. Actually with Merida trying to be a hero, but they don't have time to look around the rest of the house for Rumpel. They have to get out of there before Emma returns. So anyway, they on their way out, the heroes found a dream catcher in it. And so, yeah, jumping back to the past. Emma's about to free Merlin, only to find out that Regina's tear wasn't strong enough to free him from the tree. And so Henry's walking in about his breakup with Violet. It's gonna hurt. Gonna hurt. Mhm. Now it looks like Emma and Regina got their tear. I mean, it was a great plot for this episode. I mean, you needed a fresh breakup, and obviously we ship everyone else. Um, that's been on the show longer, so you wouldn't want to break them up. Might as well break Henry's new girlfriend that he just gained. It's kind of sad. It's kind of sad. I'm like, why would the writers do that? I mean, let the relationship last a little longer, please. It's only been a few episodes, and this whole flashback's supposed to only take 6 weeks by the end of the half season. So that's a short time to be in love with someone. I mean, I guess that's kind of long enough, but it hasn't even been 6 weeks. This is right before they cast the first or anything. This could have been all only a few days for all we know. That's still short. Luckily, they have Henry's here, though. Now they can use it to free Merlin. So Henry's breakup was a noble sacrifice. It was worth breaking up. It was worth for Violet to break up with him so that they could free Merlin. If they didn't have a fresh breakup, if they didn't have a fresh, heartbreak, then we wouldn't be able to see Merlin right now. Emma's using her savior back. Look, we got white and blackness right here. She's using light and dark magic right here. We're seeing we're seeing we're seeing savior magic and devil magic both working together to free Merlin. Whoa, how cool was that? Regina's tear was not strong enough because she moved on with Robin Hood and she's not as sad about Daniel as she used to be. But Henry, it needed a fresh tear. So that means when Merlin was being trapped in the tree in the first place, it was right after he lost his love. And that meant that they need to get a fresh tear of recently, and that was him. Merlin, plot twist. He was the usher all along. Yep, he knows Emma. Yep. We also saw him. Didn't we see him once before? Arthur has also intervened to try to stop them from freeing Merlin, and luckily he failed. And now Merlin being free is disappointed in Arthur of what he's become because he's seeking for too much glory. Merlin's immortal too. That sword cannot hurt you. Yeah, he was about to use Excalibur on Merlin and kill him, but it hurt him because he's immortal. All Arthur's plan about controlling Emma with the darkness and destroying it and then killing Merlin with it is now gone derayed because Merlin's immortal. What a cool thing to know. Just like the dark one. Merlin's like the light one. Like remember how last season we had an alternate world where Rumple went from dark one to light one? Merlin's kinda like that, but in the real world. not in the fake world that Isaac created. That is a good question. So, we're back in the present day. Everyone's hosting a dance party, a ball in Storybrooke. We haven't had one before. And, and And anyway, and then there's Violet and her father. Anyway, Arthur was talking now again, because they don't remember the past 6 weeks, this is their first time, it's not really, but their first time at least remembering of them talking about the dagger and how it used to be 1 blade and 1 sword, and, finding out why Arthur wants the dagger because he wants to reunite it with his sword, Um, but he's saying it in a heroic kind of way, and he says the dagger and the Excalibur are meant to destroy the darkness, which is a good thing, but it can also be used to destroy the light. And that's what they just discovered Emma's plan was to destroy the light forever and make her evil for the rest of the show, which is not gonna probably happen, They always get out of these plots winning eventually, right? Even last season when the villains won, they found a way to strike back when Henry became the new author. Anyway, but yes, remember how Emma and Henry found Violet's horse? He brought it back to town to show Violet, and Sir Morgus, who is Violet's father, was upset and proud of Henry for returning her horse to her. And Sir Morgan says, "You're gonna be a great knight someday, Henry." So in the flashback, Sir Morgus hated Henry for where he was and where he came from, and being a writer. But in this world, in the real world, he actually likes Henry and gives her his blessing to be with Violet. And so that's kind of crazy, you know. It's kind of crazy how that seems to work. So, I don't think he knows Henry's a writer. I think he does think. But anyway, not knowing how unskilled he is and everything, he actually likes Henry, and I don't want to see him find out who Henry really is. Otherwise, that will be bad. Anyway, anyway, imagine you're dating someone and the parents don't approve of you, but then they get amnesia and they actually approve of you. Sometimes amnesia can be a good thing, not sad. If what they forget is the negative. Sorry, probably inappropriate for anyone who has amnesia. This show's all about amnesia. You forget who you are, you forget the last few years of your life, you forget the last weeks of your life. Crazy. Okay, we haven't been back at this plot. Remember how I said the hero Emma was coming back to the house and the heroes found a Dreamcatcher? We're now at Regina's house. They left Emma's house for sure. But anyway, but yeah, it's we went from there to flashback to Storybrooke ball, that they're having in town square. So we're finally gonna find out what happened. These heroes are finally gonna get a glimpse of what happened in Camelot. So plot twist, this dream catcher is not giving back their memories. They're tied to a specific person. So if Regina and Robin want their memories back, they have to go get their own dream catchers. But they seem to have gotten Henry's. And Emma's obviously a sentimental person when it comes to her own son. So that's why she has Henry's memories lying around the house. And Regina and Robin are the only ones looking through the dream catcher. Plot twist. We didn't see this in flashback. Emma's coming to Violet to break Henry's heart. So Emma's asking Violet for a favor, and the favor is to borrow her heart. So that is so hard. You have a son who's in love with a girl, and you go to that girl, even if you disapprove, you go to that girl to pull her own heart out. Oh my goodness. Like, pull your own heart out and say, "You're not allowed to date my son." Just kidding, that's not what Emma's doing. But wow, that's very rude. But anyway, we know Emma's doing it to free Merlin. But Emma pulls out Violet's heart and says, "You have to, Violet, you will get this heart back, I promise. But I need you to do one thing." And Violet's willing to do anything to preserve her life because she doesn't want to have her heart be crushed and die. She hasn't had her heart pulled out before, so it's like, okay, I'll do whatever you say. I'll do whatever you say. And Emma's like, "I need you to break Henry's heart." She was forced to by the hands of Henry's own mother. Imagine your own mother forced the love of your life to break up with you, and you found out about it. You'd be heartbroken that she broke up with you, yeah, but then if you found out your mother was behind it all, you're like, "Don't you want me to be in love? Blah, 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 blah." Well, it'd be like my aunt doing that to her own son, or no, to her own daughter-in-law. Anyway, sorry, I'm using my relatives as an example because I have a cousin who's about to be married, and if by any chance he gets to watch this later on, I'm just making a mock out of him, just kidding. Anyway, but yes. Anyway, yes, Emma did pull out Violet's heart and commanded her to break up with Henry. So Violet didn't do this by choice. She probably actually loves Henry, and so therefore, don't give up on Violet and Henry. I have a book that's titled Violet and Henry. I'll have to tell you later. But anyway, don't give up on the couple. Okay, it was just a temporary breakup because of Emma's darkness choices. She's an evil savior right now. Not even a savior at all. I'd call her. I'd call her an evil devil of sorts, but not the devil. Emma's just the dark one. So, after watching that, Henry was watching in the background as Regina was watching, and so I guess Henry kinda got his memories back, having seen that and seeing that Emma he doesn't have the whole story, but he remembers the part that Emma, you know, ripped Violet's heart out, and now that kind of hindered the mother and son relationship there. Anyway. And then we jump back to the flashback, one more time, where Merlin is finally having a conversation with Emma, with all the heroes and grannies, and they're talking about how in the movie theater, there was candy bars, and they looked exactly like the ones in the movie theater, and Emma suddenly remembered as a child, she ran into Merlin at the movie theater, and she's like, "You were at the movie theater when I was a little girl," and Merlin's been a tree for 5 years, so I wonder how he got there, you know? I mean no, he wasn't in a tree for 5 years, he was in a tree for thousands of years, but, like, how did he get to Emma in the movie theater? And he's like, It doesn't matter how I got my message to you, what matters is that you heed the request of my warning." And Emma remembers that he told her not to pull Excalibur from the stone, and he's like and then Merlin's just emphasizing, "Yeah, so don't pull Excalibur because bad things will happen," you know? So, we gotta root for Emma not to pull Excalibur from the stone. We don't want bad things to happen to her. Mhm. So, yeah, now we're ending the episode with Regina confronting Emma about their visit to her house, and Emma's mad that Regina broke an entry, but, trying to justify everything she was doing when Henry found out that Emma pulled out Violet's heart. And we also found out that Violet's horse was never lost to begin with. Emma let that horse out in the first place just to go help him find it, just to help him find it and spend some motherly son bonding. Anyway, it was all purposely orchestrated and manipulated. And so and then Emma was like, "No, no, 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 you don't get to justify after what you just did. You broke an entry, but that doesn't matter because we found out you broke Henry's heart by forcing his Violet to break up with him." And so anyway, Henry is so upset he even closes his bedroom window because he doesn't want to see Emma feels bad. Emma was trying to make it up to her by letting Violet's horse go and helping Henry find it. Unfortunately, the episode just ended, but let me catch up here. Unfortunately, Regina had Regina wasn't having any of it, and it was like you have Excalibur, you have Rumple, you're you killed you broke Henry's heart by making his girlfriend break up with him. What are you trying to do? Like Emma's been doing a lot of evil things lately. And anyway, Emma let it slip out that they were trying to free Merlin. They wanted to free Merlin. And Regina was like, "You free Merlin and Camelot? Then why are you still the Dark One? Why didn't Merlin help, right?" And Emma's like, "It's just a waste of time. I want to see my son." But obviously, Henry doesn't want to see Emma. So it's not that Regina's trying to protect Henry from Emma. And, Henry has agency. He could choose to see his mom, whether he wants to or not, but he's choosing not to. And so, anyway, because Henry's heart's broken after he found out what Emma did to Violet and pulling out her heart and forcing her to break up with him. That's kind of sad. I mean, at least she didn't break up with him in Storybrooke, and she doesn't remember that breakup. So, I mean, they can still hit it off. But, anyway, it's kind of sad, really, that Emma did that to her own son. She wasn't putting her son first. She was putting her own darkness before her son. So that was kind of the mistake here. And, she didn't mean, her decisions were right. She was doing them for right reasons, but they were wrong decisions. Wrong decisions for the right reason. She was free Merlin, but she did it in the wrong way. By pulling Violet's heart out. So plot twist, we all thought that Violet was just willingly breaking up with Henry, choosing to break up with Henry, but it was all forceful. And so anyway, Emma didn't have to do that. There's other ways to free Merlin, but prophecy fulfilled. Emma was the one who freed Merlin, not Regina. Regina tried to pretend to be the savior this whole time, and free Merlin, but it ended up being Emma anyway. So, I mean, Regina's still a hero, though, and she's still trying to save the town while Emma's being evil, so she might not be literally the savior, but anyway. So that wraps up our episode tonight. We got 5 minutes. Well, I doubt there's any comments anyway, because I have things to show you. So for Christmas, I know this is not usually part of our marathon. I showed you all my Once Upon a Time merchandise back in the summer. For it aired during our marathon night when we skipped a week. For in the summer for a vacation. I told you all my Once Upon a Time merchandise. I gotten more for Christmas this year. Um, it turns out there's a total of 4 novels and there's 2 comic books. And that's the only thing they ever made on the Once Upon a Time franchise. And I only had a couple of those novels. I wasn't interested in getting the whole collection, but after I found out that I had 2 of them, and that just before I made my summer video, mom was hiding one from me. I just realized, you know what, I might as well get the last novel and the last comic book, because I had 1 of the comic books and 2 of the novels, and then there was a third one that was hiding from me, and I didn't know about it. And so anyway, I got it for Christmas, and I ended up using my money to buy the last one, and I got the comic book. So anyway, I kind of completed my Once Upon a Time collection. I mean, I thought it was completed before, but now I just added more to it. I mean, there's always something more you could buy on merchandise, but all the books that were released while the show was on the air, and I don't think there's been books that were released since then. But anyway, all as far as books go, I have all, I mean, unless you want to get a replica of Henry's Once Upon a Time book, there's, I could always get more of those, and with different stories in it. But like as far as novels, did you know? Do you remember my well, let me show you here. Remember, this is one of the novels. Hang on, let me find it. Remember my novel on Once Upon a Time season 1? It's all season 1 in one book. They didn't make a novel on the future seasons. Do you remember me talking about that? Anyway, so there's this book. You remember this? And then I think I showed you this book. So yeah, these are books. You remember this is the Red Riding Hood book about Red Riding Hood's childhood. And this is one of the books I chose to read for a high school assignment when we were supposed to read a book and make a book report on it. The cover's off, but it's usually a picture of Red Riding Hood, which we haven't seen her since season 3, I think. So she hasn't been on the show in a while. And then I think you've seen this comic book. It's a Tales from the Past. You get one on Rumple and Belle, one on Hook, one on Regina, and one on the Mad Hatter, which we haven't seen since season 2. These are just flashbacks that never made it into the actual show, but it's in a comic book format. So anyway, you could read that, and it's made by Marvel too, the ones who invented superheroes. Whoops, the cover fell off, but I'll fix that later. So those are all the stuff you've seen, and this was probably one of the last things I showed you. I got it for my birthday while we were in the middle of finishing season 1. Since I didn't make my Once Upon a Time merchandise video till July and later in the summer, you did get this. Remember when I was flipping through these pages? I mentioned there was a Heroes and Villains book, and I didn't get it because it was too expensive. That's not one of the books I was talking about, but I did get the Heroes and Villains book. I meant to so it's a funny thing. Christmas happened, right? And I got sick in November and I skipped a week in September and I was like I'm and not only I was glad to not be in the middle of a season when the year ended, but I was also glad that we didn't save the end of the season for after Christmas because I was going to show this book when we were watching Heroes and Villains at the end of December. Unfortunately, I forgot all about it and got too excited for the marathon. I didn't show you guys, but this is the Heroes and Villains. You know where all the villains get happy endings. Remember, Rumple was a knight. Henry, Rumple Cook was a coward. Snow White was the evil queen. Anyway, those are not. But the sad thing is that those are not in here. These are the pictures are at the end, but these are let's see, where are they? Oh, look at this. This is the end of the book. Good and evil both did the right thing. Faith was restored, and the final battle was won. That's how the book ends. No, that's kind of a spoiling because by the end of the show there will be a final battle, and that's actually the words of the final page of the entire series. So I hate to spoil this end of the series. I'm sorry, but anyway, there's a picture. There's a picture. That's Jafar. That's Aladdin and Jasmine. They come to the show eventually. Sorry for the spoiling, but you can see that this is not about Heroes and Villains at all. It says Heroes and Villains on the cover, but really, this is about later seasons. Maybe I should stop showing you pictures. Like, these are all Aladdin and Jasmine pictures. Look at that. Oh, there's the Snow Queen. Now, that's not a spoiler. We're past the Frozen arc. Oh, look at that. There's Ariel. I'm not going to flip through all the pages because that will just take forever. Oh, there's Ursula. That was last season. See if we can... Oh, there's Belle and Rumple on their honeymoon. So this is so unlike the other book. The other book was showing pictures from flashbacks. These are illustrations of present day, and they are not in. The flashback illustrations are actually part of the show. We see them when Henry flips his book open, but we don't see the present day ones. Henry's the new author now, and he's probably writing these, but it's off screen. So these pictures were not known to the public eye till now. There's Charming. There's Cinderella and Prince Thomas. There's Snow White and Charming. We've seen that. Now that's a flashback one. So I guess there are some flashback ones in here, but there is present day ones too. There's remember the Huntsman? We haven't seen him since season 1. And maybe last picture. Sydney, number Mirror on the Wall. We haven't seen him since season 4. So anyway. Let's see, it says Once Upon a Time, but it's Heroes and Villains. But the illustrations we saw in Isaac's book are not in this one. That's what makes me upset. It should be the opposite of this book, but it's not. But anyway, I decided to get it anyway. I hate to spoil this, but at some point in the show we get another book, and not another alternate reality, but Henry makes a second book on the series. Because eventually his original book gets a little too full. He decides, when we get to the last couple seasons of the show, he decides to make a second book. And this is the second book. Look, it's the same title. Unlike Heroes and Villains, it's the same title, Once Upon a Time, but it has a picture of a tree. It has an actual picture to it. And now this has pictures of Now, I know all the pictures in this book are from future seasons. So I'm not going to show you the pictures in this book because that would be a spoiler. A lot of these pictures are from the last season too, so I'm not going to show you this, but I'll just show you the cover. So none of those are part of the 4 novels, by the way. Those are just things I grabbed. But yes, you got the novel on season 1, and then you got the Red Riding Hood book. The 2 other novels I'm talking about, Henry and Violet. I've actually had this for a while. Mom just never gave it to me. She was hiding it from me for a long time, but it was supposed to be a graduation present when I graduated high school. I didn't know, so I wasn't interested in buying. I wasn't interested in buying these books because I was like, I only have a half collection. I'm fine. But then when I realized I had most of it, I might as well get the rest. I might as well complete the set. So this is what I got for, not necessarily what I got for Christmas, but what I bought with my own money. This is just what Mom finally decided to give to me on Christmas. And then this is about Regina's childhood. So you have one about Red Riding Hood's childhood and now Regina's childhood. Now, if you notice in the show, we get flashbacks of Regina's childhood a little bit, but she's already an adult when she's living with Cora. You know, we never get to see actual flashbacks of when she was a kid. So that's what this book's about. Cora's manipulation on her when she was a kid. You know, obviously she didn't crush her boyfriend's hearts, right? Cora wasn't that evil until she became an adult. So you can safe assure this book is safe to read because, you know, it doesn't involve crushing Daniel's heart. But it mentions Regina's childhood and all the hard things she had to go with living with a powerful evil mother. But anyway, those are the 4 novels, and there was only 2 comic books that ever existed. Never, the cover came off, but here, I'll do this. Remember this, the one with all the flashbacks that never made it into the series. This is about Regina, Shadow of the Queen. I think it's a lot focused on Regina's evilness, things that happened in her life that didn't happen on the show. Her sex relationship with Graham, you know, that she has in her chambers. This also mentions other evil things she did that didn't make it to the show, and other hearts she crushed and other hearts she pulled out. This might be a violent comment, but you can read it if you want. But yes, that's all the books of Once Upon a Time. And I bet you remember this. This is an older book of Once Upon a Time where it's plain, the pictures come separate, and you can put them wherever you want. I put them in the back of the book. And as you see, I started writing about the show, but I stopped after 1 page because as you see, look at all this writing. I flip it over, it's empty. I didn't finish. I was going to write the whole show on this book. So this is what I got while the show was on the air. These other books came after the show, but this one I got while it was on the air. I wasn't huge into merchandising while it was on the air, but when the show ended, I wanted more merchandise. I just didn't care about collecting even more after COVID. So now that I collected more merchandise over Christmas, didn't get much on my birthday, so that's why I didn't show you anything. But then because I collected stuff over the years, that's why I made my video over the summer. And then this, and now I got some stuff for Christmas. So anyway, that's just all I wanted to show you. I didn't need to show you this stuff. This stuff you've already seen, but I wanted to show you the stuff I got for Christmas and how it relates to the stuff I already have, which is the books. You know, obviously, if you watch my video on all my Once Upon a Time merchandise, there I have calendars, Once Upon a Time calendars. I have a Once Upon a Time pop heads, Funko Pops. You know, I have a bunch of other things, but since the only thing I got for Christmas was Once Upon a Time books, I thought I'd just show all the books, especially if you didn't watch that video. So if you want to see the rest of my Once Upon a Time merchandise, go on my YouTube channel, and if you scroll down, you'll find one that says Once Upon a Time merchandise on it. It's also because I aired this video on the same time as our live stream when it was canceled. It's also part of our Once Upon a Time marathon. If you just scroll down on our Once Upon a Time marathon playlist, you can do that. But just before we go, we're in the Camelot season, and back when I showed my Once Upon a Time merchandise, we were not in the Camelot season. But now that we are, I am so upset that I came back from the cruise last week and forgot to show this. Again, it's one of those things like at the end of season 4 when I didn't show my heroes and villains thing. I wish I should have remembered to do this. I just got too excited for the marathon. And today I'm not as excited because we're not getting to the good stuff on the Camelot arc until next week. Now, we did get to good stuff last week. I like the start of the arc, but the middle is kind of boring until you get to the end. So if you haven't enjoyed the arc so far tonight, next week it gets better. And last week was definitely better than tonight. So that's what probably motivated me to remember this. But I forgot, last week, because sometimes you can enjoy the show so much that you forget what you have on the agenda. And so anyway, I was meant to show you this last week, but I forgot. It was supposed to represent the start of the arc, but now we're in the middle of it, so it's kind of too late. But it's not too late to show this because we're still in the arc. And yes, today at night wasn't exciting enough for me to forget. Like, I still love the show and I still love every episode, but this wasn't exciting. These are one of the few episodes that I'm not as excited about. There's a big plot twist coming up next week that I'm not going to spoil, and I'm excited to watch that with you guys. So anyway, but until then, I'm glad I had this to motivate me today because I forgot to show you my Christmas presents from last year, and now, that a few weeks ago. But now I'm glad I got a chance to show you. So anyway, this is Excalibur, Camelot, King of Camelot. This is not something you could buy. It's not something you could easily find on the internet. I paid someone to carve this from when the show was on the air, and I wanted to buy an Excalibur sword. And so anyway, and I was not taking very good care of it over the years. They asked if they wanted to put my name on it and make me the dark one. I said no, I just want the plain sword. At some point in the series, we'll get to see the sword before there was a name attached to it. It's not really a spoiler. You're familiar with the design because it's from the dagger, right? And you'll know what the sword looked like before it had a name attached to it. Somewhere along the lines here, I'll just show this part. Somewhere along the lines, this darkness disappears, and they put a name here, whether it's Rumple or Emma Swan, right? But there was a point when the sword had no name on it, and it just was all these scribbles. So, I mean, I hate to spoil that the sword didn't used to control a person, but it's not really a spoiler. It doesn't involve the big plot in a way. It's just the sword did once have no name on it before. And because I broke it in half once, you could say this is the dagger and then this is the Excalibur. And at some point in the show, they're going to be reunited. I think that's going to be next week. Next week, the sword's going to be reunited into one blade. And look, it's going to be very big and tall. Ooh, the sword in the stone. Pull it out! I'm King of Camelot. So anyway, the exact same sword from the show. I've showed this before, but we were not in the Camelot season, and now that we are, this would be very appropriate. I just wished I showed it last week, but anyway, and who knows? We still have a couple more weeks of this arc. Maybe I'll show it again. I don't know. But that wraps up for our marathon tonight. Sorry this was a little long. I just had to show that at the end. I was hoping for, when we first started this marathon, we were really good at ending at 9:15. And well, no, we had trouble starting late a few times. But anyway, there were a couple times we were good at ending at 9:20 at least. And I was hoping to be one of those nights where I didn't talk very much. And I sadly did talk too much at the beginning. I tried to make up for it by not talking in between episodes. But even if it was just for 1 minute, uh, that still didn't make up time. So anyway, for starting a little bit late at 7:05 and for not ending till 9:25, I even thought I could show you all this merchandise in 5 minutes, but it took 15. So anyway, I guess I really needed a 15-minute Q&A there. But anyway, I'm sorry for the long live stream. I just had to show that. I'm not going to make another video on my merchandise. As you see, that only took 15 minutes. And when I made that video, it was an hour. It was long enough to be worthy of the marathon. And then I made another video for our marathon about ranking all the Once Upon a Time seasons, which also took an hour. And as you see, only took a quarter of an hour. It only took 15 minutes. There was no need to waste time on that. So, I didn't want to make a video. And plus, I'm not planning to cancel another week anytime soon. I really wish I didn't have to cancel the cruise, but oh well. Anyway, yes. So again, more Once Upon a Time next week. I just had to show that. I'm sorry. Sorry for making this a longer live stream. It's supposed to be 2 hours and 40 minutes, but it's 2 hours and 50 tonight. I thought I could do that all in 5 minutes, but nope. 10 minutes longer than I expected. So, all right. Well, have a great night. We'll see you guys next week, and God be with you till we meet again. Next week, it's going to be very exciting. We're going to get a big plot twist of why Emma's evil, because we still haven't picked up that point in the Camelot flashbacks yet, and we're gonna find out what her real plans are next week. That's not the end of the Camelot arc, though. The reason why the plans are being revealed a little bit early is the same reason we've had other arcs where the plan was revealed early because there was a follow-up thing that related to the arc. So anyway, there's more things to come. I'm trying not to spoil much, but anyway, there's more things to come. That's why things are going to be revealed a lot sooner again. So anyway, so everything's going to be resolved next week, and then 2 weeks from now we'll finish the arc. So we're halfway through. Each arc takes 4 weeks. So anyway, 2 weeks down, 2 weeks to go. So anyway, I'm looking forward to more Camelot with you guys next week. And yes, I already said it, but God be with you till we meet again. I'm going to end Facebook first. Bye y'all.